It ain't luck, it's destiny.
Alrighty, hi everyone, welcome. Thought I might give my thoughts on the new 12.10 patch. Promised a few people that I would give my thoughts on it, and I'll also be talking about what this patch means for Twisted Fate, which is probably what most of you are interested in. I'm gonna try to not make this one like 20 minutes. Yeah, but I want to talk about the patch overall first a bit, actually. So for the people that don't know, Riot actually made a really big patch, changing like systems within the game, so not just changing champs, which is what they mostly do. But yeah, this time they actually decided to change things like health, armor, magic resist, healing, shields. I mean, you can all see it right here. I'll also post the patch notes in the description if you want to take a look at them yourself, because it's quite extensive and I'm not gonna cover all of it. But yeah, so they changed a lot of these things, which can be quite impactful for the game, or they should be at least. Now reading through all of it, it all looks really promising, and it all should work out in theory, right? But that's theory. Sometimes it doesn't work out practically, right? Or some things don't work out the way you intended them to work out. But yeah, we're only like 4 or 5 days in now, so it's hard to draw conclusions right now, I would say. So I'm gonna take everything with a grain of salt, right? We'll go over like the things that I've noticed from the patch in a bit. There's actually one thing I wanted to cover, which is in my eyes the most interesting thing this patch, and it's all the way at the bottom. This one. Now obviously this doesn't apply to a lot of people, but I think this is, at least for me, this is like very impactful, and it's something that I've been complaining about or like been upset about for a long time now, is the fact that like you have guys in Diamond 1 Master Tier even that are duo queuing because their rank is lower than their MMR. So let's say they have like Master Tier MMR but their rank is Diamond, and then because of that they're allowed to duo queue, which is just stupid, right? Or you have people making fresh accounts and then duo queuing, and then they'll be like Diamond or Platinum and they'll be sitting in Master Tier games duo queuing, which is obviously unfair because people in Master can't duo queue. So I'm really glad they are looking into this. I honestly hope Riot one day just decides to remove duo queue altogether, because I think it will just fix a lot of problems that we are currently facing, like queue times being long, autofill, all this stuff, right? If there's no duo queuing, then all of the stuff, all of those things should be easier to fix, and also it solves the flex queue problem, where it's apparently, I mean, I don't play a lot of flex, but apparently if you play as 3 in flex, it's really hard to find like matches, because you don't have people duo queuing in flex queue, and it's like flex queue itself is just hard to balance. So I think what Riot should just do is like say, okay, we have solo queue mode, and then we have flex queue mode where you can like duo queue, triple queue, or like, you know, play as a full party or something. That's what I hope, but I know that some people hate solo queue and they want to only play League if they can duo queue, and I can understand that, but I just really like competitive integrity and all that stuff, and I think for us to have the best possible and most like representative ladder of who is good and who is bad, you just need solo queue mode only, in my eyes at least. So yeah. And then yeah, obviously on this patch as well, they did the VFX changes, which I've played a few Twisted Fate games, obviously only really playing with with High Noon Twisted Fate. But I like the changes overall, I would say. Yeah, I'm happy with them. That's all I have to say about that. So yeah, that's the patch. Now we'll go over, like, I've written down a few notes because obviously otherwise I'm gonna forget about stuff. So right here I listed down like things I have noticed. Now I've not played a lot of games. I played like, let's say 10 to 20 games on the new patch, which is, I mean, not a lot, but I think a lot of people are also just figuring stuff out. So this is all like, you know, thoughts after like 4 days, right? Nothing in like that I've listed here is set in stone. I think it's gonna take a while for like the meta to get figured out. I would say like maybe at least another week, 2 weeks or something for people to start figuring out which champs are actually good. Maybe new builds, stuff like that, new rune setups. So yeah. So what I've noticed is fights last a little longer. I didn't put longer. I think they last longer, but it's not like really easy to notice, right? They last maybe a little bit longer, but it's not as long as some people are saying. Like there's a lot of people saying, oh, my games are lasting like 50 minutes, and fights that would normally be over in 10 seconds now last like 2 minutes. It's not like that. I think they do last longer, but it's not as impactful as some people are saying. And I think that's a good thing. Because what I was really scared of with the patch is that Riot maybe overdid the numbers a bit, and that we were gonna get a completely different game, which might scare a lot of people away, but that's not the case at all, I feel like. They're all subtle changes, and you notice them, but it's not as impactful, I would say, as I thought in the beginning. Assassins and Burst champions are still viable, so there's a lot of Assassin players and like Burst Mage players, whatever, saying that they can't one-shot anyone anymore, blah blah blah. There's people complaining that their champ sucks right now. I don't think this is the case at all. I think you can still play Assassins. I've played against Assassins and they still, to me, seem strong. I think people that play these champs need to approach the game in a very different way, and I think something that goes for everyone is that I think throughout the years we have like moved away from roles and classes, and what I mean by that is like, for example, an assassin should be a champion that's able to like assassinate a high priority target with low HP, but an assassin should not be able to 1v1 a bruiser or a tank, in theory, right? Same with like tanks. Tanks should be able to tank up, but tanks should not be able to one-shot an ADC. Stuff like this, right? And that's something that throughout the years I feel like Riot has kind of forgotten. Classes don't really mean anything, you know, you just have champs. And I think with this change, like 12.10, I hope that Riot is gonna slowly move back towards that, and we're gonna get more of a clear idea of what classes actually mean. So that's something that I hope. So I put here, yeah, they just need to be more fat in order to do it. So like an assassin can obviously still one-shot people, they just need to be a little bit more fat. They actually have to hit their spells, so like you have a lot of like champions like Yana or Zed or something are kind of famous to sometimes only having to hit like 2 abilities or something, and they'll take like 80% of your HP. With this patch, that should hopefully happen a little bit less often, unless, like I said here, they are fat, right? If they're fat, they should still be able to do that, obviously, right? And also put down like buy burst items, because what we've seen as well is that you have people playing champions that are like in the assassin class, but they're building sustain items or tank items, or maybe not tank items, but like I think a very good example is like Gore Drinker, Kiana, I mean even Gore Drinker Zed, or like things like this, right? If they buy these items, they shouldn't be able to deal damage. It's that simple, really. In my eyes, an assassin should buy lethality items or like burst items and assassinate people, right? He shouldn't buy sustain items and then one-shot people and also sustain in a sustained fight against the bruiser. That's not how it should work. And that goes back to what I just talked about with the classes, right? Because fights last longer, ADCs and bruisers are stronger or more impactful, I think is a better word, because I think when people see stronger, they think, oh, bruisers and ADCs are OP right now. Yeah, surely they're stronger. I would say they're just more impactful. They have more say in who is gonna win or lose the game. And yeah, I mean, that's logical, right? ADCs like longer lasting fight because then they get their runes stacked up. They like sustained damage, right? Same with bruisers. So that's something I've noticed as well. OP champs, will come back to this right here, actually. Melee versus ranged matchups are even less punishing now, so this goes back to the assassins being still viable. I would say right now with the changes, you know, higher base health, getting more armor and magic resist throughout the game, makes it so if you're playing a melee champion into a ranged champion, it's harder for the ranged champ to punish the melee champ because of the higher HP, which is a change that I hope Riot is gonna tinker this a bit further on, because I'm of the opinion that if you play ranged into melee, that the melee champ should obviously get punished, but I feel like throughout the years with like runes like Second Wind and like what are like other good examples, or like Doran Shield Second Wind combo, Fleet Footwork, all these things, right, where these melee champs can just cruise through lane without getting punished whatsoever, and I think that's not really how the game should be, right? If you play melee into a ranged matchup, you should get punished for it, at least early on. So yeah. So this actually helps assassins, I would say. Assassins can get through lane a little bit more easily, and that's also where we see like champions like Kassadin. Look, Kassadin is sitting at a 53% win rate right now, and I think that's purely because of just the higher base health that is able to survive lane more easily, which is obviously where this champion struggles, right? And this also applies to Kiana or like Zed, right? These champs who should get punished a little bit early on don't get punished as hard anymore, and they can just cruise through lane without any problems and get to their power spikes more easily. So yeah, that's also something I've noticed. Then also, yeah, a lot of people are overreacting. This is so funny to me because, I mean, it happens every patch, right? You have people saying like, oh, my champ is dead right now, or the game is doomed, or you have people saying league is saved, game's lost 50 minutes now, I'm quitting the game, blah blah blah. I think this is all stupid. I think anyone drawing conclusions right now should know deep down that it's not possible to draw conclusions on a patch after 3 or 4 days, whatever, right? I would say you need at least 2 weeks, maybe even more, to like start drawing actual conclusions on what the patch has done for the game. Obviously there's like OP champs right now, but that's the same with every patch, right? But to draw a full conclusion on what these changes have done, I would say everyone needs to calm down a bit and play a bit more games. So yeah, then meta. So I'll cover like the meta champs or things that I've noticed that are like good right now. Obviously I'm taking this from the games I'm playing at my MMR, so this obviously doesn't apply to people who play in bronze or silver, although it's probably gonna be pretty similar. So yeah, top lane, I would say any bruiser is still OP or strong, as for like before the patch that also was the case. And then you still have like the tanks, right? Malphite and Ornn. I would say these are like the only tanks though that are really good. I guess you also could maybe put Poppy in there, and you do have the occasional Mundo player, but those are mostly champs that are played by OTPs or like people like Vizicachi, who are famous for Poppy, for example. But overall, Malphite and Ornn are still like decent tanks to play top lane. Jungle, so Lilia seems to be pretty strong, Wukong seems to be pretty strong, Kindred, Talia, Rengar is pretty good, I would say, if you're an OTP. That's what I've noticed in the games that I've played. Mid lane, so maybe this is the most interesting role because this is the one I actually play. So Anivia is pretty strong. I actually watch a fair bit of Frog on the stream now and then, and I mean he mentioned this in the beginning already that Anivia feels like really good, and from what I've seen, I think I kind of have to agree with it. Overall, I mean it makes sense, right? Anivia has a champ that can burst, but also has very good sustained damage with R. She can like use Liandry, which is a pretty good item I would say right now, but she can also go Ludens if the enemy team is really squishy. So this champ seems to be pretty good, and then I mean Ahri is still like fine, I would say. I hate the champ, but I would say for solo queue she's like your all-in-one package, right? She has decent laning phase, decent wave pushing. She's able to like dash out, dash in, engage, kite. She has a CC with her charm, decent scaling. Like this champ just has the entire package, right? Cassio, obvious reasons, right? Sustained damage. And then I've played a fair bit of Orianna, and I have to say that Orianna feels pretty good right now, especially if you're going Liandry. Obviously, like same with Anivia, you can still go Ludens if enemy team is full squishy, but if there's bruisers or like champs with a lot of HP, then Liandry feels really good on Orianna as well. ADC. So what I've seen is that, I mean, this also is pretty logical, I would say, because like I said, fights last longer. So in a fight that lasts longer, you want an ADC that's like a hyper carry, right? And you want to probably pair him up with a enchanter so that he can be more effective in the team fights. So like examples of hyper carries are Tristana, Twitch, Kog'Maw, Jinx, and then you pair them up with a Lulu, a Karma, a Janna, you know, champs like that, right? Not to say that on support melee champs aren't viable anymore. I still think Nautilus, Leona, and all those champs are good. For other reasons, right? With these champs you can decide when to start fights, which you can't do if you play Karma or Lulu, because then you'll probably be sitting behind your ADC. So yeah, melee supports are good for different reasons, but I feel like on support you can basically still play anything that isn't troll, right? It's not because I say anything that you can play Teemo support. Any non-troll support is still good, I would say. So now about Twisted Fate, right? Which is probably what most of you guys are here for. I've played a decent amount of Twisted Fate games. I would say not enough to, like I said, draw full conclusions on it, but I think the things that I thought before the patch hit are kind of true, I would say. So ADCs are strong, especially hyper carries like Jinx, Tristana, Twitch, and this is something that TF actually kinda likes. TF likes to have a hyper carry ADC on his team, because Twisted Fate is the perfect champ to pair up with a carry, right? You can easily help them kite with gold card, make sure that they survive the fight. So yeah, this is something Twisted Fate doesn't mind, I would say. ADC is being strong, especially hyper carries. ADTF is actually stronger than I would say before the patch, because the fights last longer. ADTF is a champ. If you actually, I mean, I've played a bit of it myself. I don't like it. I don't hate it either. It's just a very different playstyle, I would say. But ADTF is definitely a playstyle where you want longer fights because he just benefits from them, right? He gets more sustained damage rather than an APTF who does his rotation and then has to wait on cooldowns. So I would say ADTF is actually stronger than even before the patch. APTF feels like a side grade, so what I mean by that is that he's not stronger, but he's not weaker either. I think he still has his place. Yeah. Negative. So for TF, bruisers being OP makes it harder for TF to properly side lane. I think this is pretty logical, right? If you have a lot of bruiser champs, like Fiora, like Camille being strong, then it's harder for TF to properly side lane. That's logical, right? Like if more tanks were to be played or something, then it's probably gonna be easier for TF to go into side lane. Although you probably don't want to, like, let's say you're playing against Fiora, you preferably have your top laner mirror Fiora, right? But there's some games where, let's say, the Fiora stomps top lane so hard that maybe you're the only one who can really respond to getting the waves because you also have TP. There's more people using Ignite top, less people using TP from what I've seen. So that's where, yeah, they put TF in side lane more often from what I've seen. And this is something, I mean, if you play ADTF, I would say it's maybe matchup dependent because you're probably gonna be like able to 1v1 even some bruisers in some matchups in side lane, but for APTF you probably just want to catch waves, right, rather than like pushing really far up. Yeah, Lilia and Talia in jungle are really good right now, like I said right here. This is something that I would say TF kinda hates, because he doesn't really like being paired up with AP junglers, because then enemy team will just buy mercs and go like double tenacity. Lilia is even worse, because enemy team can go cleanse, and they cleanse out Lilia R, and they can cleanse your gold card, so that's something that TF really hates. Although I would say Talia jungle is actually, in my opinion, one of the few AP champs that TF doesn't mind playing with, because you have a really good like setup with Talia, where if you gold card, Talia can basically freely hit her combo. So that's actually maybe one AP champ that I wouldn't mind playing with if I were to be playing Twisted Fate mid. So yeah. Yeah, I mean, Birth build is weaker, but I would say it's still viable. I was a bit scared about this. I thought like maybe we were gonna go back to like full support TF, but I think if you play Electrocute setup, it's still fine. It's a bit weaker, but I would say it's still viable for sure. And then I wrote down this. So what I basically hope the patch turns out to be is I hope there's gonna be more room for like more macro decisions. I hope the game is gonna be a little bit less like cavemen fighting it out and one-shotting everyone, right? I hope that people that have a lot of knowledge on macro and gameplay are gonna be able to like shine again. Rather than, I mean, right now, or like before the patch, right? I would say it was more like, okay, Ooga Booga, I am X-champion, I have 4 items, I one-tap you in 0.1 second, you know, you can't respond. I hope we're gonna have less of that and more like actual like thinking in fights and thinking in the game. But yeah, we'll have to see, right? And I also hope to see more tanks being viable top lane, because I do like to play top lanes from time to time, but I don't really like playing bruisers. I mostly like playing tanks, so I really hope that like maybe, I think if Riot gives a little bit of love to Maokai and Mundo, we might see these champs popping up again. We still see Malphite and Ornn, but I would say the only reason these champs are like good is because they have a lot of damage as well in their kit, which is not what a tank should be, like I said earlier. Like a Malphite that ults an ADC with Comet and like Q, everything. ADC is probably gonna be like, what, 30% HP or something. Ornn also has a lot of damage. Like, in some ways you probably can't even call these champions tanks because of the amount of damage they have, right? But yeah, I hope with the changes that we can start getting back to like actual classes and actual tanks rather than tanks also dealing an absurd amount of damage. Why would I also like to see this? This also applies to mid lane, right? Because if there's more tanks in the top lane, assassins are obviously gonna be maybe not weaker, because I mean, like I said earlier with the classes, an assassin should be able to one-shot a high priority target, and he shouldn't be able to 1v1 a tank, right? That's obvious. But yeah, I guess then in that way, assassins might be a little bit weaker if tanks are more viable. But yeah, tanks being more viable means that we're gonna see more Liandry users, mid lane, mages, Orianna, Anivia, Cassio, champs like this, right? And I love playing mages. So yeah, I hope that with this that we are gonna see more of them as well. So yeah, I would say that's it with the patch. Now I wanna end off with a little bit of maybe an update on the runes I'm currently using, because there's a few changes. Right, brought out this treasure hunter rune, right, a while back. I was in the beginning, I was a bit skeptical on it, because I was like, alright, you know, what does this amount of gold actually mean? Like, does this mean something for TF? Like, let's say if you get a good ultimate off bot lane and you get some treasure hunter stacks, does this actually mean something, getting the gold, or do you maybe want like relentless ultimate or ingenious over this one? Because this rune is obviously really snowbally. It helps you a lot with getting your items, but after you have like your core items, let's say Ionian Boots, Everfrost, Lichbane plus Sonya or Rapid Fire Cannon, something like that, then this rune doesn't really do anything anymore, right? Whereas if you then have these runes, then that's actually gonna help you. But thinking about it more and more, and also seeing Dope I use it, I started to think about it more as well. It actually makes sense, because I mean, TF is a champ that likes to snowball early. He likes to get some good ultimates off early, and then getting that gold is gonna be able to snowball the game more easily, right? Twisted Fate doesn't want to stall a game to 30 minutes. As Twisted Fate, you want to win the game in the first 20 minutes, but by getting good ultimates off, getting good roams. So this rune makes sense because he fits his kit, right? If I were to be playing, yeah, maybe a scaling mage, then this wouldn't really make that much sense, because you want the game to last very long, right? So then you're maybe gonna want to look into one of these runes. But for TF, I would say this makes sense. Not to say that these runes are not viable anymore. I think they still fit Twisted Fate very well. All of them, actually. Yeah, I'm just currently using Treasure Hunter. Also because I feel like I said, by the time you get Ultimate Hunter fully stacked, you know, you wanna basically have won the game already, if you know what I mean, right? And then I would say the extra gold helps more than getting a little bit more cooldown reduction on your ulti. So yeah. That's the only thing I changed in the electrocute page, actually. Other than that, I'm still using the same things. And then for my spellbook setup, I changed up one thing, which is this, conditioning. So before I was always using like bone plating and second wind. I started, or I tried out conditioning, and it feels like it has more value. I actually got this from Psychedelic. There's this ADTF player on EOS. He also uses this in his ADTF rune setup. Uses like lethal tempo and stuff in first 3, but he uses conditioning in secondary 3, conditioning and overgrowth. So yeah, that got me thinking, like, why is he using this rune, you know? Is it good? Is it bad? So I started trying it out, and from what I've noticed, it's actually not bad. The problem with these runes is that it's only useful in laning phase, right? Second wind and bone plating is only really good in laning phase. Second wind because you're able to sustain burst a little bit easier, right? You're gonna heal up. And then bone plating because you're gonna basically like negate a little bit of the burst damage that a champion might deal to you. But people have gotten really used to a rune like bone plating, for example. People have been getting really used to it. Like if I play against a LeBlanc and I use bone plating, LeBlanc is always gonna pop my bone plating first with an auto attack before she's gonna go in for an all-in. So this rune doesn't do anything really. And after laning phase, like this rune doesn't scale well at all. So after laning phase, this rune is useless as well. And I would say second wind isn't bad, but it's, like I said, also only really good in laning phase, right? And SDF, you basically wanna, like, you don't wanna give laning phase to your opponent, but TF is not a champion that is like a strong laner, right? You basically just wanna farm up, get to your items, look for ults, play the map, right? You don't really wanna hard focus on lane. So yeah, surely this helps you survive, but I would say if you play the matchup properly, you don't need this rune or bone plating. So yeah, that's where I've been taking conditioning a little bit more often now. Obviously scales better. Rune only activates after 12 minutes though, but you do get a decent amount of like extra armor and magic resist. Not an insane amount, I think it's like 12 or something. But yeah, like in terms of value, I think this gives more value in a game than these two. So that's why I've been taking this. I mean, yeah, in this upper tree, you can't really, like, shield bash doesn't work on TF, obviously. Font of Life is good if there's a lot of opponents in the enemy team that heal. And then what you basically do is you get Font of Life and you buy, what's it called? The support item that, like, has healing reduction. Chemtech Putrefier. So you buy this item, and because with this item you make it so your allies heal when you stun an opponent. When your allies heal, they get the passive from Chemtech Putrefier. So that's where this is really nice, but that's only in that scenario, right? Which is pretty rare, I would say, but it happens sometimes. And then Demolish, I mean, I thought about this a bit as well, but like I said, TF is not really a strong laner, so you're not really gonna be using this rune that much, I would say. So yeah, I think this is the current setup I'm using. So if you guys want to use it, then feel free to. I think that's it actually. I think I'm gonna end it off here. So yeah. We'll see where this patch goes. Like I said, I think it's gonna take probably another 2 weeks or something, maybe even longer, for everyone to like actually figure out the patch and actually figure out what all these changes did. But yeah, overall, right now I'm pretty happy with what I've seen. So let's hope it continues going that path, right? So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, hope you guys learned something. If you have questions, or if you have some feedback yourself or something on the patch, then feel free to leave it down in the comments. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.